Welcome to the details now. National Security Minister Albert Dapaah says there are no registered political party affiliated vigilante groups in the country. Hence, there are no such organizations to be disbanded. The minister appeared before Parliament today to respond to a question by Asawase MP Muntaka Mubarak on what is being done to disband such groups. MPs have complained about activities of those groups, and they say that their activities actually threaten the country's development. They're calling for action to deal with them. Mr. Dapaah says government has rather directed the police to deal with such violent acts of such groups as an entirely criminal matter. Here is the National Security Minister.
There is no legally registered vigilante group. So I don't know of any person who belongs to any such group. But of course, it is not possible that the national security agencies will absorb into the agencies anybody who has a criminal background. Security checks are undertaken, criminal checks are undertaken to make sure that everybody who is employed into the national security system has passed the necessary security and criminal checks. And again, I want to emphasize, we must try not to politicize the security agencies, and we commit ourselves to doing just that. Mr. Speaker, once an incident has been investigated by the police and the law enforcement agencies, and they have determined or established that crime has been committed, the necessary sanctions are applied. In this case, after the investigations, if it is established by the police that some criminal actions did take place, those who were responsible for those actions will certainly be sanctioned in accordance with the laws of the country, and they will not be spared only because they belong to a particular political party.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minority Leader.
Minister Dapaah there. Joining me from Parliament is our correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Hello, Gakpo, can you hear me? Hello, Gakpo, can you hear me?
Yes, Gifty, I can hear you.
So did the minister explain what then these identifiable groups like the Invincible, Delta, the Bamba and Azoka Boys, etc., did he further explain what they meant then?
Well, his point essentially is these are not groups who are recognized officially as groups which are affiliated to the various political parties. He's been making the point that he thinks that the activities of individuals who form themselves into groups and engage in any act of violence or any act that threatens the peace of the country should be dealt with, the actions of some of these groups should be dealt with as people who have broken the law minus the political coloration. And he has been reiterating that as far as the directive that government has given to the security agencies are concerned, they've been very firm in asking them to deal with any members of these groups who engage in any act that threatens the peace of the country. In fact, he made specific reference to the incident in Kumasi relating to the office of the regional security liaison officer being taken over. And he says that the police are on the hunt for those responsible and effort to be undertaken to bring them to book. And so that's his argument that some of these things should not be looked at with the lens having to do with political parties, but as crime that should be dealt with aside by the security agency.
Gakpo, that must have attracted a lot of interesting responses from the minority in Parliament. What have they been saying?
A number of them, right on the floor, raised questions about the kind of feedback that the minister gave. The member of Parliament for one of the minority MPs, Samson Ahi, for example, indicated that in his constituency there was the incident in which the invincible forces of the NPP had taken over and destroyed the offices of the National Health Insurance Scheme, something that he thinks that those responsible, he claimed, have been walking free since. And he thinks that although he agreed with the minister that some of these things shouldn't be looked at politically, he demanded answers from the minister on what is being done to bring people like that spoke, and the minister responded indicating that, well, the investigations are ongoing, those responsible will be dealt with. There were further questions as well. For example, there was a question from the Member of Parliament from Bingo Pamkam, Samuel George, indicating that he had heard on various media platforms, including Adom FM, that an NPP Member of Parliament had actually indicated that one of those members of the groups, not one of the members, but some of those members of those groups, particularly the Invincible Forces, efforts will be undertaken to absorb them into the national security apparatus. So he was demanding from the minister to confirm or deny this, and as to whether this was a government policy. Well, the speaker did not allow this particular question and indicated that it was out of the scope of the specific issue that has been posed as to what is being done to disband some of these groups. So that particular question was not allowed, but clearly the minority MPs don't appear satisfied with the kind of responses that the minister gave on the floor of Parliament.
Well, Dapaah, hold on for me so that we can take what your interview with Mr. Inusa Fuseni as well on the floor. But hold on for me, because when we return, we'll talk about how the vetting is going and some of the matters arising from there.
Don't get registered legally. But they are facts on the ground. They exist on the ground. People see them, perceive them, encounter them. And they pose security threats. And that's why the National Security Minister was invited to deal with the potential security threats that these de facto vigilante groups, which exist in all the regional capitals and who somehow have affinity to the ruling government.
And possibly the NDC as well.
And possibly the NDC as well, to be disbanded.
What do you make of his argument that he's making? No such groups to be disbanded because they are no legally registered.
You see, he's been put in a difficult situation. He was skirting the issue. Because even before we went into the 2016 elections, those vigilante groups played a very significant role in determining the center of power within the MPP. When the Invincible Forces engaged with the Bolgatanga Bulldogs at the MPP headquarters in the full glare of the public. Okay? Now, that legitimized the victors, the action of the victors, who incidentally are the Invincible Forces.
Looks like you're politicizing it, which is actually one of the issues that the minister raised and said we should desist from doing that.
No, I'm not politicizing, I'm just stating the facts.
But would you admit that such a group exists within your party, the NDC, as well? Would you admit that?
It's just like asking me whether the minister should go and disband such groups within the NDC. Today, the question that we are asking is what will happen to the Invincible Forces, to the Bolgatanga Bulldogs, and to the Delta Forces. That's what we're asking.
So the response that the minister gave...
And the persons who have responsibility to deal with the issues are those in government today. It will be out of place to throw a red herring into the question and allow us to swallow the red herring.
So are you satisfied with the kind of response that he got? Because this question was very specific, that what will be done to disband the groups, and then he says there is no one to disband.
Definitely, that's what I'm saying. I'm definitely not satisfied with the answer. And definitely I'm abhorred by attempts to throw dust into the eyes of the discerning public and make it look like this is an issue that has found space within the NDC and is finding expression within the MPP. Obi Menu, the famous lawyer in Sunyani, once said, repeating mistakes has never been considered as experience. Now, today, the lot has fallen on the government, led by His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, to deal with vigilante groups who are unleashing terror all over the country and vicariously holding public officers responsible for occupying positions.
what do you expect in terms of the demand that, he outlines measures to disband the groups? What, an official ceremony where we will say the groups are disbanded and that's it?
Well, in Kumasi they acted. Those who acted in Kumasi are known. They should be arrested. At the Flagstaff House, they acted. Those who acted there are known and should be arrested. In the eastern region, they acted. Those who acted in the eastern region are known, should be arrested. In the northern region, they acted. Those who acted in the northern region are known and should be arrested. This is what we are just saying. I mean, if you want, you can look at it within the general ambit of law and order. The people who otherwise have no right to take the coercive powers of states into their hands ought to be arrested for doing so. And that's what we're just saying.
So arrest.
Joseph Opoku Gakpo there with Inusa Fuseni in Parliament. Well, we understand, just news coming in, is that Delta Force has attacked a court in Kumasi, KMA Circuit Court actually, and freed all their 13 members who were remanded. Just now that, just so you know, we'll be getting to our correspondent in the Ashanti region for more on that particular matter. But I still have Joseph Opoku Gakpo there to bring us up to speed on what's happening in Parliament. Gakpo, we know that today is the final vetting day and the process is ongoing, but we also know that the minority leader wants the nomination of Deputy Minister Designate George Odro withdrawn. Why so?
And so he gave a hint of it on the floor of Parliament last week, that he has access to a BNI report on a nominee, and so he was asking the president to make that particular report public, or he, the minority leader, will make it public. Eventually today, he disclosed details of that, although he didn't give away much. He stated on the floor of Parliament a while ago that the Deputy Minister Designate for Agriculture, George Odro, who is also the Member of Parliament for Nuet Biase, who is actually supposed to appear before the Appointments Committee any moment from now. Well, there's been a BNI report on some activities that he had engaged in, and in the words of the minority leader, the details is actually one that indicts him and makes it ineligible for him to be able to serve as Deputy Minister and even as a Minister of State. The minority leader did not exactly give any additional details on that. In fact, he wasn't allowed to finish making his point, because when you raised the issue on the floor, they were discussing approval for the deputy ministerial nominees who were vetted last week, which the Appointments Committee had submitted a report on, and the House was debating whether to approve those 17 or otherwise. Eventually, the House gave the approval. So, in the middle of its submission, the majority leader, Osei Mensah, cut it all short and indicated to the Speaker that the issue of the nominee who is appearing before the committee today is not up for discussion on the floor of the House, and so he can't continue making a comment on him. And eventually the Speaker agreed to that, and so he really didn't continue. But Mr. George Odro will be appearing before the committee any moment from now, and just maybe that question may come to him from one or the other members of the Appointments Committee.
But that depends, perhaps, if my guess is right, on who is on the committee. We understand at this point also that the minority has decided not to be a part of the ongoing process. So I'm not really sure who's going to ask him. But what happened today on the committee? Did the minority show up?
They didn't. So far, they've done the vetting of 4 different deputy ministerial nominees who already appeared before the committee earlier. Patrick Yabuama, the Deputy Minister Designate for Sanitation and Water Resources, appeared. Subsequent to that, Major retired Derek Odro, who is Deputy Defense Minister Designate and also Chairman of Parliament Defense and Interior Committee, he was also vetted. And there's been the vetting of Dr. Sagri Bambagni, who is the Deputy Minister Designate for Agriculture. And as I speak to you, Charles Oredu, who is Deputy Minister Designate for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, is before the committee. When he's done, the expectation is that Kojo Nkrumah, who is Deputy Minister Designate for Information, will be appearing. And then subsequent to that, George Odro, the other Deputy Minister Designate for Agriculture, will be appearing. The minority members are not participating in the process. Only the majority MPs are here. But, well, you may never know. They may want to give him the opportunity to clear the air on the issue, especially after the minority leader raised it earlier on the floor of the House. But we wait to see.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Gakpo. We'll get back to you as and when we should, but obviously we're expecting more of the people to be vetted today. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and Dapaah.